we want to preserve our constitutional republic, we need an informed and educated citizenry. And that's what this show is all about. Find out what's really happening. It's time to stop the lies and learn the truth. This is The Real Story with your host, Jeanne Ives.
Okay, welcome back to the second hour of The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. Wow, I am so honored to have my next guest on the program with me. It is State Senator Chapin Rose, and when I showed up in Springfield, believe it or not, I took over his particular desk in the House because he had just won a seat in 2013 to the Senate after having been a state legislator in the House. So we had that in common. I think personally it was the best seat in the House because it was up high to the far right, and you could see everybody. So, Chapin, thank you.
Right. Emphasis on far right, Jeanne.
Well, you know, it suited me just fine. Maybe not you so much, but I mean, Chapin's a really, really important guy. I mean, he knows a lot about everything, and again, he served in the House from 2003 to 2012. Now he's in the Senate from 2013 on. He is, you know, a minority spokesperson on appropriations, which is really the most important committee in Springfield in the Senate. I mean, and so he's got a lot of information. He's also a lawyer, by the way, University of Illinois, JD, and law school. So good for him. And so, Chapin, we were going to talk about quite a few things here. I'm going to start with this tick list. We just discussed the Gotion deal with the Coalition for Prosperous America. Then we discussed how lithium batteries really aren't as green as people want to believe. Then we talked about the hysteria around climate change, which is driving all of this type of investment. And, you know, you are down in the Ameren territory. I got to tell you, when you go to the MISO app, at any time that you look it up, the generation mix is coal number one. In fact, I just did it this afternoon on my walk when I was walking my dog. Coal was producing 38% of the energy down in your area of Illinois. Then 30% was coming from natural gas, and then I can't remember what percentage, but something like 20% was coming from nuke. Wind and solar was barely registering, is my point. And now they want to go green and then force us to subsidize Chinese-backed Communist Party companies.
Yeah, this is all backwards. I mean, you know, you just mixed a lot of different policy items in there, but quite frankly, you know, the bottom line is this is all about issuing press releases and telling the progressive left how green the Democratic Party is. It's all it is, and whether it's, you know, this Gotion thing where you literally gave away the candy store to the Chinese Communist Party, or it's Pritzker's disastrous energy policy where, and this is the part, Jeanne, that your listeners need to know. When we get rid of all the coal-based and natural-based power plants in downstate Illinois, which is the bill that he signed into law, there's no way to keep the grid functioning. And so MISO, who runs the grid, as you just point out, has already ordered the power companies to bring new transmission into Illinois to make sure that the grid is stable so that when you flip the switch, the lights come on. And Jeanne, here's the real fallacy in it. And this is where this you know, green mantra just fails and it just becomes complete hypocrisy by Governor Pritzker and the Democrats. Those transmission lines coming in Illinois from Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana are going to be bringing coal-based electrons back into Illinois, okay? So they're not green. They didn't green anything. They're just making the rest of us pay more for it. The power lines that have to bring it in, we're going to pay more for those. And we're going to put someone else's state's people to work while we put our own incumbent employees out of work, okay? So green, give me a break, J.B. Pritzker.
It's insanity. Like, one of my favorite bills, too, was you filed a bill last year when he wanted all this, you know, solar power and wind turbines. You said you filed a bill and you called it You First Chicago.
If this is such a good idea, you go first. That was the bill.
Right.
And, you know, they're forcing all these windmills and solar panels in our backyards. Well, if this is such a great idea, JB, you put them up in Millennium Park. You put them up, put a freaking windmill on top of the bean, okay? Put them up in all your parks, but they won't do that. They're going to stick them in our backyards. They're going to throw up. In fact, these wind turbines, which are massive, they get bigger every year. The bill that J.B. Pritzker signed law could literally put one of those suckers up less than 2 city blocks from your property line. So let's say you got a nice house, out in the country that you worked your whole life to pay off the mortgage, and boom, suddenly one of those things goes up with the noise and the flicker and everything else that comes up with, between about a block and a half from your house. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. Nobody in Chicago wants that. Yet you're going to stick them in our backyard. So again, and for what? So that we can all bring coal-based electrons back in Illinois. And by the way, forget if this is really about the environment, natural gas is 99.9% efficient. Okay. Yes. But we're getting rid of those too.
Yeah, they're getting rid of that. Okay, so this is a really important thing I wanted to bring up. So I listened to the 55-minute press conference about the Gotion deal, and on stage they had the ComEd CEO, and then they had the Nicor CEO. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know that you're standing in front of J.B. Pritzker, and he basically signed legislation that's your death warrant? He doesn't want anything to do with natural gas. He wants to get rid of it, get rid of gas cars. Oh, by the way, and that's not natural gas, that's gasoline. I get it. But he wants to get rid of gas dryers. He wants to get rid of, gas heat for your homes. He wants to get rid of all of it. And this CEO stood up on stage, thanked them for putting this deal together, promised that they would be there for the initial, to provide the initial natural gas, and they would build out the infrastructure when they need to expand their plant. That's what he promised right in front. And I'm thinking to myself, he wants to shut you down.
Well, all I can tell you is that this look, we all want jobs in our districts. So we all want manufacturing to come back to Illinois. We all want, good jobs with benefits, right? It's almost a cliche at this point in political circles. But the bottom line is, when you're handing, just out of one fund, which is the deal closing fund, which, by the way, I think most, if not all, the Republicans in both the House and Senate voted against this $400 million into the deal closing fund.
They did. I checked the record. They did all vote against it.
And let me just be clear on this too, Jeanne, for your listeners. In committee, it was in my committee, and Deputy Governor Menard was in there on behalf of the governor, and we kept and there was a provision that the governor would have to apprise the speaker and the Senate president before making an investment out of the fund. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, we said, what about the minorities? What about we represent a third of the state of Illinois. How come we're not adding in the minority leader of the House and the minority leader of the Senate for the Republicans? No, we're not going to do that. We've got this. You guys, we're just gonna go ahead. You don't worry about it. We've got it. Don't worry about it. Well, now we know why, right?
Yep.
And by the way, this also now means that Chris Welch and Don Harmon, as Speaker and Senate President, they're now part of this because they sign off. They were told in advance that you're handing, and just out of this one fund, we handed $125 million of Illinois taxpayers' money over to the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, just out of that one fund. That's not the total package they got. They got almost $500 million, but just out of that one fund, they got $125 million, and without any consultation whatsoever to the Republican Party, which, obviously I'm Republican, but what kind of transparent democracy doesn't include 100% of the state?
Yep. Well, no, and then also, locally speaking too, they pretty much hid some of the incentives from the people as well. That's going to blow up on them. But but you're right. Also, like $125 million. Think of how many other small businesses could have benefited from some cash infusion. And also think about this. We would have a better business climate if we had better business policies in the state of Illinois. We know that. And they never worked on the fundamentals first. Instead, they're buying off the Chinese for his green fantasies. And putting a battery manufacturer in here when he lost in 0 out of 18 previous deals, he lost.
Well, and again, the green fantasies is exactly right. This is all a press release that is that has no substance to it whatsoever. And again, I'm glad you covered the problems with lithium-ion batteries, right? I mean, but you talk about the pure hypocrisy of it. But again, and we're going to open up a bigger can of worms when I bring this up. But when you've got the Chicago public school system with graduating kids that can't read, write, or do math, is it any wonder that people buy this nonsense, right? I mean, when you've got a functionally illiterate group of people graduating from high school, from the largest high school in the state of Illinois on a regular basis, is it any wonder that you can just throw out the word green and they believe it, right? There's no green. It's the same thing as what happened last year with the energy bill. Say, we're getting rid of coal. We're going to get rid of carbon. They're going to carbon. In fact, you're going to bring back carbon from all the surrounding states. You're just going to put all of our guys out to, out of work in the process. It's just such bad. It's just such fundamentally bad public policy. And by the way, I'm for more of everything. Okay.
Right.
I'm for appropriately sited windmills. I'm for appropriately sited solar. There are places that wind and solar make sense. But when you take away a local county board, and by the way, what's the biggest thing that unites all Republicans? It's local control.
That's right.
Local school boards, local county boards, local city councils know better than we do in Springfield, and certainly better than anybody in Washington, D.C. Okay? But when you, Governor Pritzker and the rest of Democrats, take away the right of a local county board to cite wind, okay, to cite appropriately, put where it goes, appropriately put where solar goes within a county, you're asking for trouble. And by the way, I don't know if we have to take a break or not, but I've got an amazing example of how crazy, absolutely crazy, this wind stuff has gotten down here. And I don't know if you
yeah. How about this? How about we take a short break? I'm going to bring you back because I got a couple other questions for you as well. Thanks a lot for holding on. Okay, great.
The Real Story with Jeanne Ives continues on AM 560. The Answer.
All right. Welcome back. Chapin Rose, you're still on the line. I want to hear the windmill story. Tell us what's going on.
So for your listeners, between Springfield and Bloomington, just off I-55, is a town called Lincoln, Illinois. That's where the National Weather Service has their radar for basically all of central Illinois. It's a massive operation. It tracks every storm we have that comes through here. It's lost not one, but two tornadoes now because of the windmills that are in Monroe, Illinois, which is just north of Decatur. Not one, but two tornadoes they've lost. One of them was momentarily, not for very long. One of them they've lost it for 15 minutes. Okay. Now this has gotten so bad that the Weather Service actually issued a statement earlier this year that said, "Oh, don't worry about this. This is all your Biden stuff, right? Your Biden gibberish." So, "Oh, don't worry. We have storm spotters out there looking for these things." Okay, storm spotters. So we replaced the radar with storm spotters, which is fine until the sun goes down. Right?
Unbelievable.
So the Channel 3, which is the WCAA news down here in Champaign, has done multiple stories. Their meteorologists at Channel 3 have done multiple stories on this, that the NOAA weather radar system in Lincoln, which by the way, would back up into some of the southern suburbs. I'm not saying it covers Chicagoland, right? But it would definitely be hitting areas like Kankakee and some of that zone. That weather radar on the south end of it now has been polluted by the windmills in Monroe, which is just straight north of Decatur. So, for example, the area that I represent, one of the tornadoes that came out of Taylorville, south of Decatur, was lost for approximately 15 minutes. Well, in 15 minutes, is that going to go to Monticello? Is it going to go to Argenta? Is it going to go to Clinton? Or did it just disappear naturally because it actually disappeared? Right? I actually have copies. I actually have, the second by second copies of the scan where the storm disappeared. It was gone for, over 10 minutes. So, and then it happened again this past January or February.
But that tornado reappeared then after 10 minutes? It was still active and real?
Yeah, it was still active.
And nobody had any warning at that point?
And so now this has become such an issue but the Biden administration won't acknowledge it because it interferes with their whole climate change stuff. So their latest thing is, well, we're training storm spotters to go out and watch for these things to compensate.
Well, that sounds kind of dangerous.
That's okay until the sun goes down, and then we're screwed. So I mean, I bring this up because sighting is super important, right?
Right.
Sighting is everything.
Right.
And if we've already screwed this up with this deal, imagine what happens when you take away all sighting authority. In fact, Piatt County, which is the Monticello area of Illinois, Piatt County had like a dozen plus hearings on their most recent windmill thing on where to put it, just to make sure that it didn't up A, in somebody's backyard, but B, it wasn't interfering. One of the things they discussed was what other complications would come from this NOAA weather radar system in Lincoln, Illinois. So it's a real deal, and it's serious.
Well, it's also serious when it comes to like solar sighting. I mean, the fact that they adjusted this to say that you could literally put a solar field. I mean, I'm talking like 1,600 acres of solar panels could literally be put 150 feet from your house. Yeah. That is disgusting. Or 50 feet from your property line. I mean, I went out to see a gentleman's home, and it was from the corner of his house. There was a solar field, a 1,600 acre one, 67 feet from his home. It's just sad. It's just so sad.
And as ugly as that may be, first of all, down here you're literally taking the best farm ground in the world, anywhere in the world, out of production.
Because people are selling out to the solar industries. And by the way, and because your ratepayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars are subsidizing all of this, by the way. ComEd has buku money to spend. They talked about, spending the money as well when he got up and spoke with the Gotion deal. Oh, we're going to put a $240 million investment into X, Y, and Z. Energy efficiency, he called it. Well, energy efficiency is like changing out somebody's light bulb and giving them money for insulation. Like, why are we doing that? It's nonsense.
Listen, energy policy stopped being about policy long ago.
Yeah.
And under J.B. Pritzker, it's about press releases, not policy. It's energy press releases. And until he gets this infatuation with running for president of the United States out of his system, I don't think it's going to get any better.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left in this segment, and so I just wanted to ask you a few things. First of all, veto session coming up. What do you think is going to happen with the Investing Kids Scholarship Program?
So, well, it better get extended because it sunsets at the end of the year. And there was this whole conversation the Senate Republicans led on this in the spring session. And that was the Senate, I think, was there. And it came down to the House Speaker, who did not want to deal with it, quote unquote, at that time. Well, we're going to see where Speaker Welch is and the House Democrats in veto, because if this does not get extended, the fact that all those kids are going to get the rug pulled out from under them will land squarely in Speaker Welch's footsteps.
And
the deal was ready to go. The deal was ready to go in the Senate in May when it should have gone. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing lands at Speaker Welch's feet. Yeah,
and his kids go to a private Christian school.
Do they really?
Yes, they go to Timothy Christian. Yes, absolutely. And then Harmon, he's the product of private schools as well.
It's like it's just such a hypocrite. I mean, the hypocrisy knows no bounds with these people. It's just like the Chicago Teachers Union president last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. It turns out she's doing the same thing. Well, look.
Dennehy, the IEA lobbyist down there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, his kids go to private school too.
Well, I've got to go. Let me be clear. In Downstate, Illinois, there are pockets of private schools take advantage of this. Mm-hmm. It's not as huge of an issue as it is in the city. But, I don't want to pull the rug out from any kid, no matter where they live.
Absolutely.
And so, I speak for myself. I can speak for Leader Curran. I can speak for, I think, most of the Senate Republican caucus when they say we're fully supportive of extending that and would like to make it, frankly, permanent, to be brutally honest with you.
Yes.
But we'll see where this goes. And if it doesn't go, it's going to be because the House of Representatives, was ready to pull, basically ready to pull the rug out from under these kids.
Okay, last quick question. How about, is there going to be a supplemental appropriation to compensate for the AFSCME contract, non-citizen health care, migrant issues, you name it? It just feels like the budget pressures are building.
The budget pressures are absolutely building. I'm going to just give you two quick things here. I doubt I shouldn't say doubt. It doesn't seem like it'd be coming in veto. It might come in early January. I don't think they're at the point now knowing exactly what they need to put in it exactly. But let me give you two examples. One is the governor and the Senate Democrats and the House Democrats, they're like, oh, this migrant health care thing, this is no big deal. We're going to manage the program. Well, then 3 weeks ago, and by the way, for people out there, manage the program means they're going to
got 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Okay, 30, yeah. Well, he's going to put copays on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, he killed the copays 3 weeks ago.
Backed off.
And then he told the hospitals they have to pay it back. To the extent they collected any copays, they now have to pay them back, okay? So they collected 2.5 months worth of copays, and now have to pay them back. How about everybody listening? Is someone paying your copay?
Right. Okay, we got to leave it there. I have a hard break. One scam after another. Chapin Rose, thank you so much for coming on and bringing this all to light. I appreciate you.